What if I told you that one single word, just one, had the power to rattle the most powerful nation on earth? Not a threat, not a headline, but a word that didn't come from a president or general, but from a diplomat standing firm, calm, and unshaken. A word that didn't echo through battlefields, but through the quiet halls of diplomacy, yet hit harder than any bullet ever could. Today you're about to witness the moment the global script began to change. You'll hear the story of how Jaishankar, India's voice to the world, used his intellect, not aggression, to challenge a legacy of control, and how that one word he chose didn't just spark debate, it shook the foundations of Western dominance. Stay with me, because by the end of this speech, you won't just understand the word, you'll feel its weight. You'll grasp its impact. And you might never see global power the same way again. The power of language and diplomacy lies not just in what is said, but in how and when it is said. In international relations, words are more than mere communication tools. They are instruments of influence, strategy, and sometimes defiance. When a diplomat like Jaishankar speaks, he doesn't simply address an audience, he addresses history, perception, and power structures. Each word is calibrated, considered, and loaded with context that extends far beyond its literal meaning. The global stage is not one of casual conversation. It is a chessboard, and language is one of the most crucial pieces. A single word, when used deliberately, can shift alliances, expose hypocrisy, and challenge long-standing narratives. Jaishankar, with his deep-rooted understanding of global politics and India's evolving place in the world, understands this better than most. His use of particular words often carries symbolic weight. It's not just what he says, but what he implies. One word from him can pierce through diplomatic fog, and forced strategic silence is a familiar tool in diplomacy. Nations often choose quiet restraint over bold declarations, especially when navigating delicate international waters. For decades, India played this game well, careful, measured, and cautious not to provoke or disrupt established global powers. But silence, when held too long, can begin to sound like acceptance. That's where Jaishankar changed the game. His decision to break this strategic silence marked a pivotal shift in India's diplomatic posture. It was not just about making noise. It was about speaking with precision and purpose. And when he did, he didn't need long speeches or complicated jargon. Just one word, delivered at the right moment, was enough to rattle even the most influential circles. By doing this, Jaishankar dismantled the assumption. When Jaishankar used the word decolonize, it wasn't a slip of the tongue or a decorative phrase. It was a calculated strike. That single word carried the weight of centuries, echoing through halls of power, not just in America, but across the Western world. It signaled a departure from the old order, a rejection of intellectual and political subservience, and a challenge to inherited frameworks of diplomacy. For too long, post-colonial nations have operated under the shadows of Western approval, adjusting their policies, perspectives, and even their pride according to what the West found acceptable. The use of decolonized dismantled that structure in one stroke. In that moment, Jaishankar wasn't just speaking for India. He was speaking for a world that is increasingly tired of being patronized. The West, particularly the United States, has long positioned itself as the final word on democracy, rights, and global order. But that word, decolonized, shattered the illusion. It reminded America that the global South is no longer content to be spoken for or about. The United States for decades has played a dominant role in shaping the global narrative, politically, economically, and culturally, from issuing judgments on human rights records to setting the tone on international alliances America's voice has often been treated as final. But when Jaishankar used one word that pierced through diplomatic convention, it served as a wake-up call to this long-standing dominance. That word challenged not just American policymakers, but the very framework through which the West engages with the rest of the world. It revealed a discomforting truth that power dynamics are changing and old assumptions no longer hold. The word forced America to look at itself not as the unquestioned leader, but as one player among many in a rapidly shifting global order. Jaishankar's statement wasn't inflammatory, it was strategic. It didn't seek confrontation, but it also didn't seek approval. That's what made it powerful. The usual diplomatic dance, carefully avoiding offense, constantly seeking validation, was nowhere in sight. Instead, the tone was confident, unapologetic, and sovereign. The ripple effect was immediate. Think tanks, media outlets, and political commentators in the U.S. took notice. What they saw was not just India flexing its voice, but a reflection of a wider trend, countries asserting independence from old hierarchies. In a world used to American commentary on the rest, it was India's turn to hold up the mirror. And what that mirror showed was a global. India's foreign policy has often walked a tightrope between asserting its identity and maintaining global alliances. For decades, the tone was cautiously diplomatic, measured to avoid friction with dominant powers. But when Jaishankar spoke that one word, it marked a defining moment in India's global identity. It wasn't merely a political statement. It was a cultural awakening. That word symbolized the end of compromise on values, perspectives, and history. It was India standing tall, not as a follower of narratives shaped elsewhere, but as the author of its own story. This wasn't about isolation or defiance. It was about reclaiming dignity, reshaping perception, and demanding mutual respect. Jaishankar's declaration made it clear that India would no longer allow others to define its moral compass or strategic direction. The colonial mindset that once judged India's policies, choices, and even its aspirations the global power structure is no longer what it used to be. For much of the 20th century, the world operated under a unipolar framework dominated by the United States. It dictated economic policy, military alliances, and even the language of morality and governance. But the rise of nations like India, with strong leadership and a clear vision for self-reliance, is reshaping that map. Jaishankar's word wasn't just an isolated diplomatic moment. It was a reflection of a much broader trend, the emergence of a multipolar world. In this new order, no single country gets to write the rules or control the narrative. Power is shared, debated, and constantly renegotiated across tables where new voices demand to be heard. India, through Jaishankar's assertiveness, is no longer content to be seen as a regional player. It is stepping into a global role with a unique blend of cultural confidence and strategic clarity. That shift unsettles older powers, especially those accustomed to issuing orders rather than receiving questions. When Jaishankar spoke that one word, it wasn't just India speaking, it was the global South awakening. Countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America recognized the message. They too could speak with sovereignty, demand, and so with one word, just one. Jaishankar didn't just speak to a room full of diplomats or news cameras. He spoke to history. He reminded the world that power does not come from how loud a nation speaks, but from how deeply it believes in what it says. That moment was not about confrontation. It was about conviction. It was India standing tall, shedding layers of inherited caution and choosing instead to lead with clarity, dignity, and strength. The world heard it. America felt it, and history recorded it. Because sometimes a single word is all it takes to shake the pillars of perception and begin rewriting the global script. Thank you for joining this journey through courage, clarity, and conviction. May your voice always carry the strength of truth, and may your words always echo with purpose. Stay bold and stay grounded. And as always, good luck on your path forward.